All right, you guys, it is Friday and we are live with Tea and Magic, your favorite show that I bring to you every single week with amazing guests talking about everything from magic to kitchen witchery to astrology. And today I have an incredible guest who I adore. We are talking about sexuality, trauma to triumph. So this is going to be a very, very uplifting episode because she is literally a real life superhero. Kimleigh Smith. I'm going to give a little introduction because I love all of this is what she is. She's an actress, producer, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed, multi-award-winning solo performer. I've seen her show. I can attest to that. Sex positive, sexual assault awareness advocate, speaker, founder of the Embrace Your Cape philosophy, singer, dancer, creator, director, superhero, queen, life transformer, life coach, and lifelong cheerleader. All of those things. It's legit, you guys. She is all of those things. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so awesome. It's so crazy to hear those things. It's like, you come into this world and you're brought into this world to do great things, right? All of us out here are brought to this world to do great things. And as
Mm,
you grow into yourselves, you get past all your drama, you go through all your trauma, you come out on the other side. And to hear those words and why I list them all is because there was a time I didn't believe I was anything, right? There was a time that I was just a gang rape victim and that I wasn't worth anything. And so I put those words out because now I can step into all of them with my heart, with my soul, with my mind, with every part of who I am. And I honor those things because I am that. I am all of those things because I came out of the ashes and grew into this beautiful queen. And that was not an easy triumph, but it is a triumph that I have triumphantly triumphed, right? I learned to embrace my cape, but I honor who I am because I can now say that I'm those things with pride. So
I've
yeah.
got one more that you really need to add, Empress. See, in the tarot deck, we've got the four queens, and then we've got the emotions and the writing, and this just the queens represent all these different areas. But when they are all combined into one, they become the Empress. And that is like the ultimate divine feminine energy. And I just feel like you represent that so much. Like maybe goddess. I mean, how much higher can we get with this bright, shining light energy? I told you guys we're really gonna cry this entire episode.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, but just add that in there, Queen and Empress. I was just
Thank
that came to me, and maybe that was spirit, but they were like, "Yes, girl, you are all of these things." Before we get into your story, which is just the most incredible life experience I've ever heard, I do want to ask you about your tea. Yes, you're
you.
drinking it right there. Tell me what you're drinking.
Told me I was gonna cry. I feel like I'm on what was it, Barbara?
It happens. It happens.
Now we know if you come on this show, you're gonna cry. This is a tea, and it's so funny. I'm not really a tea drinker because when I was going through my repression, I had strep throat all the time. And so I had to drink warm liquids all the time because I would lose my voice because I didn't know how to speak my truth. And so tea is not my favorite thing only because it reminds me of being ill. But today it was so exciting that I could embrace this tea and not be ill. And I'm so psyched because my mother made this tea out of like, she's a straight up witch, y'all. She made it out of herbs and spices and cinnamon and bay leaves and black tea. So it's got this real rich medicinal feeling, but also this healing sense of like that old
Mm.
ancestral like healing. You know, your mom will be like, gargle with salt water, drink some baking soda, like all the old school stuff. But this is that old school tea that is like the healing of the body, mind, soul, and spirit.
Oh, I love that. I mean, that's why witches drink tea. It is this medicinal concoction of love, and it's also our connection to nature. Everything that's in the tea, the leaves, the flowers, the cinnamon, the spices, it's all bringing nature into our body in a way that is healing. So even if we're not sick, that's the beautiful thing about it is we can use it to liven our mood. I personally drink cacao, and cacao is just it's such a heart opener and such an expansive thing to drink that every time I drink it, I'm like, I'm in such a good mood. Clearly, you can tell. This is me every morning.
Bring up my inner witchery.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
yeah, it's
I
great.
I would have loved, well, first of all, I want to tell everyone here how I met you many, many years ago. I mean, it had to be at least 10, 12 years ago. I think it was
Pin.
right when I first, about 10 years ago. Okay, I had just moved to Los Angeles, and so it had been a few years. And I went to see, I don't even know how I, I don't even know how I ended up there, but it was definitely a divine intervention for sure. I went to see this one woman show. I was like, one woman show? Okay. Like, I actually had never seen a one woman show before. I've just seen like big musical productions and theatrical productions. I was like, okay, this is like, it was still pretty sizable, but I was like, this is one woman putting on a show. Let's see how this goes. I was blown away. And I was just telling you, I was so blown away that 10 years later, I can still see this vision of you on stage in my mind. And even back then, you were this bright, incredible, shining star, just telling this heart-wrenching story that was like beautiful and sad and funny. And I feel that I remember you saying, because I definitely want to get into the play and the story, but a lot of us go through these things in our life, and at the end of it we come out with these beautiful creations, and that's what you have done. You had mentioned at one point, and I could be wrong, that you dreamt about this, that you had a dream, right? So first I would love for you to share what this play was and what your story is, and then this dream, because it was such an amazing divine intervention moment.
Well, it's so interesting because this is oh my, you know what? It was 12 years ago. I digress. Yeah, it was 12 years ago because I donated my kidney to my cousin. And I just kept hearing, you got to do this, you got to do this. So I donated my kidney to my cousin, and I'm not a drug person, never been a drug person. It's not my jam, but I was under the influence of, what do you call that? Morphine after the surgery. And I am in this room holding court with all these people, the doctors, the nurses, all of my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, everybody's like sitting around. I'm just telling stories. People are cracking up, and my mom's freaking out because she doesn't want my stitches to break. And back then, like, this kidney stitch is like this.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's huge. And so I'm just telling these stories. And when I finally come out of the morphine, and I was like, take me off the morphine like the next day, I was like, I don't want morphine. I had it the first day right after surgery. That's it. But everybody kept saying, oh my God, you should write a one woman show. You should write a one woman show. Well, at that point, I wasn't a writer. I was really just a dancer who became an actor. Like, I danced all my life. And then somebody told me to audition for a play, and I did. And I never looked back. And that was the beginning of my journey of storytelling as an artist and as an actor, as a performer. So I get back to LA because I came to Kansas to donate my kidney to my cousin. I get back to LA and I'm like, I'm just not a writer. I'm just not a writer. And this dream, this thing just kept coming to me, just coming to me. You got to do this. You got to do this. You got to do this. And like, I'm a big fan of that still small voice. I mean, it has spoken to me my entire life. It has guided me. Yes, I have my inner witchery, my inner connection. I always knew that I was divinely connected. Even as a child, people would come up and tell me their stories. Like, I've always had this. So I was a gang rape victim at 17, 3 football players, and I had a story, but I didn't think that was the story. So I kept trying to write around this magical thing that was going to change my life. Your greatest obstacle will become your greatest gift, and your greatest being, it will become your being. So the obstacle that you overcome, the story is always that biggest obstacle, but I kept writing around it. So finally I decided to like work with a friend of mine because he wanted to do a one-person show, and we decided to do our one-person show. But the entire 3 months of rehearsal, I'm helping him. I haven't done shit. So I'm helping him. And at the end of it, it's 2 weeks before I'm supposed to perform the show the first time, and I don't have a show. And I go home and I go to sleep. I don't know why I'm going to start crying. And I wake up out of a dream, and my entire show comes to me in a dream. And I look up and I go, you're an asshole.
I say that all the time, by the way.
I've been trying to write this. Remember, I've been trying to write this for a couple of years, and I don't come up with anything. So it comes to me in a dream. So I call the friend that I've been helping. He runs over. I say, videotape everything I do. And I literally downloaded everything that came into my dream, downloaded it, created it, videotaped it, transcribed it on a piece of paper, and that is my show. And I gotta tell you, talking about rape was not what I thought my show was going to be. I thought I was going to be acting and dancing and giving a show. But the more vulnerable you are, the more undeniable you become. And that was the beginning of my undeniability, was telling this story that brought me so much shame and so much pain, bringing that show to life and somehow turning it into a comedy, a dramedy, we'll say, changed my life forever. And I believe that we all have this great story, this great trauma that transforms us. Every great superhero has their origin story, right? That origin story is generally based around trauma. And my origin story just happens to be being gang raped and turning into a superwoman. And that's how that story originated. Now it has taken several forms. It's in a new form now, but that story is still the story. And every time I become more and more vulnerable with that story, it becomes more and more undeniable. And so I appreciate your words, because when I did it back then, I didn't know that I was undeniable, right? I didn't know who I was quite yet, but I knew I was on the way to get there. So that is the nutshell of this story of my life, right?
Oh my gosh. And after doing this performance and so many other things we're going to talk about that you're working on, after doing this for so many years, how has this creative expression brought peace and healing to your heart, to your mind, to your body, to your soul, to your life?
Right. I really believe that when you own your story, you own your life, right? Your story owns you as long as you're denying it, right? It just owns you. It makes you weak. It makes you feel uncomfortable. It makes you feel worthless. All of those worthless feelings come from not ownership, not fully owning who you are. Because I believe we have to own our good, our bad, our ugly, our beautiful, all of it. All of it makes up who I am. If I discount this whole part of my life, then I'm not fully human. I'm not fully me. That story was meant to happen in my lifetime so that I could be the woman that I am today, helping other people overcome their trauma and own their stories. So it gave me ownership of who I am and allowed me to love myself fully and to remind myself that I wasn't a victim. This is something that happened to me. It is now a part of my life. It is now a part of my story. And I have to own that as much as I own that time I was a beauty, in a beauty pageant. I own all of it. So it gave me the healing, because it no longer made me feel shame about what happened to me. It gave me the power to own it, so that those three men that gang raped me don't own me, don't break
Mm.
me, don't push me into the ground, that I can stand up and look at them and have empathy and sadness for the fact that that's what they needed to do to me as a part of their journey. So, there's a freedom to owning my story. There's a freedom to loving every part of me. I wouldn't change it for the world, right? I wouldn't change what happened to me for the world. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but I wouldn't change it for the world, because it's made me stronger. It's made me more powerful, more beautiful. It's given me compassion and empathy and the ability to look into people's souls and help them heal. I don't know what else you could ask for in life, right? Is that gift to be able to not only have the strength and power to heal myself, but have the strength and power to help other people heal themselves. So that is my journey. It's my purpose on this life. I feel like, my undergrad was in psychology. I was a professional dancer. I'm a singer. I'm an actor. And I've been able to bring everything that I love into one thing, and to bring amount of global transformation is, our ultimate gift on this earth. So
Mm.
it's healed me. It's empowered me. It's given me a voice and a strength. And I never had a voice before. As actors, we're always doing other people's words.
Mm.
But this is now my words that I hope to be able to pass on to somebody else to be able to do as well. So I just feel honored to be able to be a vessel to this story and to bring it to life as often as possible.
So many juicy things here that I want to talk about. I want to start with this. At the beginning of our journey, many people have gone through trauma in their life, whether it be sexual trauma, trauma with their parents, or we had talked about in another episode, just life in general is traumatic. I mean, the systems that we're dealing with that are broken, the oppression, it is insane to be human during this time. It's always been, this whole experience of being human is pretty crazy. And it's pretty oppressive most of the time. There's so much violence all over the world. But with all of that, at the very beginning of the journey, when we realize we have this thing that we need to say, I would love to know what that moment was like for you. I know you told us that you had a dream, but what was the moment like when you realized, okay, this is the message that I need to send the world? This is how it's going to start at the beginning. We're talking about years ago. This is how it started, where you knew that this was something that you had to do.
Well, I, in my mind, thought, we had had 2 nights, and I believe that once you book the space, you're gonna just show up, whatever
Yeah.
that's gonna show up. I already had the audience, everybody paid in. I knew that I was gonna do this show twice. Done. Finally, I achieved that goal. It is complete. I can check it off my list. I am done. So I perform at the first night. And before I get on stage to do the first performance of my life story in an audience of 100 people that some I knew, some I didn't, I almost peed my pants. Like, I was like, I'm going to pee. I'm literally going to pee or shit, one of the two. It's not going to be pretty. I'm going to be on stage in front of all these people having defiled myself. So I get on that stage, and 3 minutes in, I was there. And it was otherworldly, and I was watching myself tell my story in front of this audience. And I get to the end, and there's a standing ovation, and people are screaming and saying thank you. And I am there receiving this, and I've never received before because I've been closed for so long. And I'm standing there receiving this, and I'm like, whoof. And everybody leaves, and I am there talking to the few people that stayed. And I was like, oh, they're like, what are you going to do this again? How come you're like, everybody's bombarding me? So then it's the next night. And again, this time I don't feel like I'm going to pee or shit, but I do it. And I get out there, and again, a standing ovation, and I'm receiving it. And in that moment, I knew that this was bigger than me. I knew that this was a gift given from the divine that I had no control over, that all I could do is show up and be present for. And at that time I was young mindset. Like, I had just for the first time told my story to the world, told my story for the first time. And I go home and I sleep for 3 months, not literally, but I literally, like, I just die. Like, I'm just like, okay, I've done it. I'm done. And I sleep for 3 months. And then a friend of mine, Ruthie Otero, sends me this invitation to do my show in New York at the One Festival. And I'm like, there's no way I'm doing this again. I did it twice. It's great. But people have been writing me, emailing, texting me, all of the things saying I've got to continue doing this. And at that point, I knew that I couldn't say no. Like, I knew I couldn't walk away from my journey and my path and why I'm here. Since then, it has grown. I went to New York. I won that festival. I got to do another version of it. So I just kept doing it. And then I brought on a director. And then we even made it bigger and bolder and more vulnerable. And then it just keeps growing. As I grow as a human, as a woman, as a queen, it grows, right? There was up to a point of up to last year, I could only do so much. And now I've extended even more because I grew into my show. I exceeded the end of my show and became even better than I wrote myself, right? And now I'm in this place where it's like, oh, I've got to expose even more. So each evolution of it gets more and more of an explosion of who I am. Explosion? Ooh, that's not a word, but I just made it.
I kind of like it.
Myself. But you get to you get more and more of your insight, and the once you step into knowing that this is your path, all you can do is follow what the universe, the light, everything tells you to do. And ever since I began writing this show, I have followed and listened and followed and listened, followed and listened. And I have been a vessel to this purpose, right? When I was born, I was the third of my mother's three. My mother's from a family of 12. My mother wanted 6 kids, and then I was born. And my mom goes, "This one is a star." And my mom doesn't
Mm.
anything, right? She's just a beautiful Black woman. She's not an artist. She's not an actor. She is afraid of the camera. But she said that, and I didn't know that until, I was in my, where I'm at now. She told me not too long ago, and I didn't know that, but she did. The universe did, and all I could do is show up for that. Like, I never wanted to do this. I was an undergrad in psychology. I just wanted to do psych. That's what I wanted to do, but there was a path that was bigger than me, and that's how I ended up here. Mm.
Oh my gosh. Well, I just want to comment that this is about you, but I have to say, because my mom actually just waved, she's watching the show, and she said something like that to me recently, and I was just blown away. And she said, "Kristen, you've always shined." And I was like, wow, like what? Like your parents can see that. They can see that
Yeah.
this divine being they just brought into this world. And it's so amazing. But many times we don't see that. We don't see our divinity. We don't see our shine. And I know that you, of course, did this show and you got this beautiful standing ovation, but I am sure that there were times where you resisted it, where you said, "No, I really don't believe this." I would love to know that part of the story, because it's so great to hear about people's successes. But what a lot of people don't know is how much resistance we go through to claim our divinity. And it's a long process. I mean, how long have we been alive? So many years. It's a forever process. But what was that process like for you, realizing that you had to do this, but then going through the process of rejecting yourself, resisting it yourself, not believing in yourself, like, I trust the divine, but I don't really trust me. I don't know. Am I good enough? All of those things happen. I would love to hear that side of the story.
Okay, well, it's interesting because, like I said, when I did the show, I thought I was going to pee myself. And so when I say I slept for 3 months, that was the ultimate rejection. Now, even in my show, I don't just, the show isn't just, ta-da, now I'm cured, da-da-da-da. You see
Yeah.
me, what I love about what was able to be created, and I created what my real life was. Oh my God, I go through therapy. I'm so excited. Everything's great. And then boom, I hit another rock. And then boom, I hit another rock. And I show that fully in my show. Even almost towards the end, you will see me fall again in the show and then pick myself back up. This is not a journey that is an easy journey. Believe me, and especially because I spent most of my life, because after I was gang raped, I was in 8 years of repression, and all I was sexually dysfunctional. I could have sex as long as it was destructive, and I was in control. I couldn't even love, right? I couldn't even really have friends because I hated myself so much. So even through my journey, it has been a fight, a constant fight to love myself, to be able to look in the mirror and see myself. So when I
Mm.
wrote the show, remember, this is 12 years ago. So I'm just at the place 12 years later where I can fully honor who I am, right? So in these 10 years, I've gone through my father passing, and after my father died, it added a whole new journey of my relationship with men. So my weaknesses, I will say, is men. I That has been my destruction. I never felt worthy because the first guy that I loved, the first man that I was vulnerable with, raped me with two of his friends. So every every relationship that is in connection with men has been very destructive, and that's my drug of choice. That was my drug of choice, was self-destruction through men. As long as I was being treated shittily, then I was fine. But even in the course, so I wrote the show and I'm supposed to be cured and it's going to be great. But from that day forth, for those 3 months that I slept, all I really did, and I'm going to be super, super honest, was drink and fuck. And it was destructive and it was awful because I didn't believe that I had the power to move forward. And I didn't share that earlier because that wasn't the question. And so the question is now that, and I
Yeah.
spent 3 months seriously self-destructing. And look, there was some fun in there, but there was mostly self-destruction. And so every time I get to a really great place in my career, in my life, some man will come in and destroy me. And it's been this pattern for my entire life, from rape on, right? From 17 on. And so every couple of years I'll be in a really good place in this show, and it's going to go someplace, and finally everybody sees it, and it's going to be awesome. And then some man will come into my life, it will be destructive, and I'll spend 2 years trying to build myself back up from that destruction, and then I'll be back and it'll be awesome. So I've been on this violent cycle with men for so long. And right after my dad died, which was 2012, was finally where I really started to do the healing, because I realized all the stuff that I had with my father that needed to be healed. Right before he died, he goes, "Nobody will ever love you, and you'll never get married." And that
Oh.
on his deathbed. Now, what I know now he was trying to say was he was worried for me. He was worried
Mm.
that I wouldn't get love and be married because I was so close. So from 2012 on, I had all of this healing to do to be able to allow myself to be vulnerable with a man, because I could have sex. I could even have relationships with men I didn't really like that much. I could have a lot of things that were destructive, but I couldn't have love because I would not allow myself to be vulnerable enough to allow somebody to love me and to show up for me. And that has been from 2012 until what we're in 2020 to 2018. That was work that I had to do to heal my heart, to heal my soul, to heal who I was so that I could be vulnerable enough to love. And then I get into a new relationship where I'm vulnerable and I'm still scared. And then I destroy that. Right. So I guess I'm saying all this to say, look, I am not perfect. I am not no superhero is a superhero without drama, right? We all will continue to grow. I can't just snap my fingers and be better, but what I can do is constantly show up no matter what is going on in my life, right? No matter what, even if I'm in the shittiest place in my life, I still get to show up and help people heal because I'm this much further from the person that hasn't healed at all, right? So I've done all this work, so I'm still able to influence and inspire somebody healing and growth, because the truth is we're never going to be perfect. We're never going to be fully perfect. But what changes is how quickly I'm able to make a bad choice and go, oof, years ago that would take me 3 years to overcome. Now it takes me 3 minutes, right? So as we heal and ebb and flow, our same demon will always be our demon, but our response to that changes. And so I guess I'm kind of all over the place with this, but the bigger picture that I'm trying to say is that I am perfectly imperfect. And being perfectly imperfect means that I'm able to look at my badness and know that, oh, that's my trigger, and I could respond this way or I can respond this way. The old me didn't even recognize her triggers. She would just respond that way. But the new me is able to recognize my triggers and go, okay, men are my dangerous spot. This guy looks like he's good, but I know he's bad because that's my instinct. So let me try this guy instead. This guy that doesn't look like what I'd want, right? So I guess what I'm gifting in this moment is knowing yourself fully gives you the ability to honor everything. Some days I just want to be triggered and do something stupid. Maybe some days I just want to be triggered and go get drunk and fuck somebody. I'm okay with that because that's who I am, and I'm okay honoring that. And some days I'm like, nope, I want to be this person. My 17-year-old victim will always be a part of me, but now she's this big instead of this big. Now
Mm.
her and I can have a communication where I can go, look, boo, I know you're trying to protect me. I know you're trying to hold me back, but I have to be vulnerable. I have to be vulnerable in order for me to elevate to the next level. That's it. I honor every part of myself, and in that honoring and in that ownership, that's where the healing really comes. For me to be able to be okay with going, oh, I made that mistake, but not beat myself up, not kill myself over it, not go hide in a corner and cry about it, but be able to go, ooh, okay, I probably should have seen that a little better, but I didn't. So next time I'll know. So life is a constant journey of peeling that onion away so that you own yourself so much that nothing can really shake you. Even when you mess up, it doesn't shake you. It doesn't break you. It doesn't make you not show up for yourself. It just means, I made a mistake and I'm okay with that. So
Mm.
I hope that answered your question.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I'm just like, I always, my guests are always just like channeling this beautiful information, and I'm usually just sitting here like, I love you. And I'm taking it all in and I'm listening, and there was just so much wisdom there that first of all, as women, I think the majority of powerful women, women that have this bright light, women that have this shine, and that's all women, by the way, ladies, we are all that, whether we believe it or not. Many of our issues stem from, I want to say, quote unquote, men, relationships, and love. And that's because we grew up in a society that was so oppressive for our divine femininity, for us being vulnerable. And that is one thing that we are taught is a weakness. When we were younger, especially when we were younger, I mean, maybe now if you're 12, I don't know, but we were taught that being a woman was weak, period. But showing vulnerability, we never had our mothers show vulnerability. We never had our fathers, God forbid, show vulnerability. And so that was so foreign to us. But I love what you said that, but by showing your vulnerability, you're showing your true self and everything that you are to the world. And at that point, what else can really hurt you?
Nothing.
Right? And I love this because one of the other things you mentioned, because I really want to talk about the oppressive world and all the work that you're doing, but I think you brought up a really good point. A lot of times when we come from bad relationships, the next relationship we get is maybe a man who is a little bit codependent. Like, okay, I need him. I'm too vulnerable. But a lot of times we meet men that want to protect us and they're doing it from such a beautiful space. But it's almost like it's a little bit smothering because, like you said, no, I need to be this way. I need to be vulnerable. Please don't try to save me, protect me, rescue me. We have those men as well. It's like, I'll save you. I want to be the savior. I'll take care of you. I'll do whatever you can. It's like, no, 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 no. I can take care of myself. So we have these spectrums that I think a lot of women go through. And it's really one or the other. It's either this really oppressive, you can't be feminine, down with the femme. We know the whole patriarchy. I don't need to explain that. But then we also have these men who are waking up who feel like they want to be the savior, the white knight. And a lot of women do run in that direction as well. It's like, okay, I don't have to do the work, like you're going to save me. But really it's that standing on your own, even when you're in a relationship, standing on your own as an independent person, owning your story. That's where our power comes from. And I just wanted to mirror what I heard you say in that story, which is so wise and juicy for all women to hear, is like, you are good on your own. You really don't need someone, even though we desire other people, because women have had so many tumultuous relationships. But I do want us to touch base on the work that you're doing now, because we had this beautiful conversation about the way the world is now. And the world, I mean, it's so fucked up. We've got child trafficking, we've got child prostitutes. I mean, we were having this conversation about girls who are just out there giving their bodies away and not connecting. And I'd love to know what you see in the world today, because you are on the ground working with victims, but also working with a lot of younger women and men as well, I'm sure. In what is the state of sexuality in the world right now, especially for young people? What are you seeing out there?
Well, first, I'm going to just tap into what you were saying about we women are very independent, and that is the truth. And what we also get to be is a woman, right? And we kind of
Yes.
forget that part of a man's job and what they're missing so much is that they are meant to be our saviors and to lift us up and to be there for us. But there's a difference between having a man show up for you and be there for you than
Yes.
having a man trying to fix you. And
Yes.
what we strong women have done is we become so strong that we do it all, that we've given our men nothing to do. Therefore, they have to run off and be with some other woman that's going to give them something to do. So it's a twofold reality with what I'm
Yes.
saying. I want to be strong, and every man wants a strong, beautiful woman, but every man also, and if men and women is what your connection is, every man also needs to be needed. And
Yes.
strong women have to remember to be able to lean back and let our men show up for us. I had been so busy trying to control everything that I wouldn't let a man love me the way that a man needs to love me, because I needed to be in control to keep myself safe. Vulnerability gives me the ability to be able to sit back and let my man wash my car and let my man go, hey, babe, I cooked dinner for you tonight. Hey, babe, giving them a purpose means that their purpose on this earth as a man is to be, I mean, if you go back to Cro-Magnon world, is to be the savior, is to be like, I brought home I caught this bowl for us to eat. That is what their job is. And we as women, and especially strong, independent women that are running our own businesses, I run my own company, you have your own company, we gotta be able to also be able to be taken care of a little bit. So I just piggybacked on that just so that I could be very crystal clear. My issues with relationship was because I didn't want to be taken care of because I was afraid. I was afraid
Yeah.
to take my power away. But a real relationship means give and take. This man gets to be a man, and I get to be a woman running my business with somebody helping me, aiding me, lifting me up, caring for me as a man should. We're so used to doing everything for men that they have nothing to do, and then we're mad at them for not doing anything. So honor yourself as a queen. When you look at the queens, they had their men taking care of them. So find that beautiful balance where you can, yes, be strong, but also be taken care of, because that divine feminine is meant to be taken care of and treated
Yes.
like a queen.
Thank
Period.
you so much for bringing that. I just want to let my mom know this is why I don't wash my own car. It's so dirty. And she's like, "You gonna wash that car?" And I'm like, I kind of want someone else to do it for me. I'm like, where do I find one of those? No, it's so beautiful that you say that, because that is, and we're going to get on to the world, but this is such a beautiful topic. This is so important, especially on the show. We've had so many women on this show speaking about the divine feminine and really sitting back and being open to receiving, because we have that balance. Like, it's beautiful that, yes, we have our own divine masculine. We're kicking ass out there. We're taking names. We're doing our thing. We're taking over the world. But yes, you need to be able to sit back and go, okay, like, cook me dinner. Could you please, like, take care of
Yeah,
me right now? I mean, it's such a beautiful thing to receive
to
as
receive.
well.
And because women, we're such nurturers, we're always doing, doing, doing. So every time you do, you're leaning in and you're pushing that man further and further away from you because they have nothing to do. A
Yes.
man feels emasculated if they have nothing to do, right? If you're doing everything, then why even be in a relationship, right? A relationship is meant to lift each other up. So you have what you bring and he has what he brings. But if he don't bring nothing, then you don't have a relationship. You have a take care of ship. And I don't want to take care of ship. I've had enough of that.
We all been any of those.
My mother took care of my dad his whole life, waiting on him hand and foot, and I followed in her footsteps. And I refuse to be that anymore. I want to be able to lean back. I want to be bathed and taken care of because I deserve that. And you deserve that as a woman. We deserve to be showered with love. Why are we doing all the showering? Bruh, no.
Yes.
Disgusting.
And sometimes you do get in those relationships where the guy really isn't doing anything. And then you have to have self-respect and go, I'm out.
Out. I'm out.
I'm out. Like, you know, that the mama's boys where you're like, no, 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 no. I'm not your mother. I'm your lover. And that's a whole other story. And then you
Not
have your work as well. But I would love to know, before we move on, because you're talking about this and you're so passionate about it, at what point did you, how do I say this? How did you come to the acknowledgement that you needed to receive, and how did you begin? What did you have to tell yourself to begin to open up? Because I think this is there's so many women in the world, so many independent women, like, I don't know where to start. I'm scared. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah. I think this is going to go into the society reality. Societally, we have raised men poorly. We as a society have allowed them to have bad behavior. And then we wonder why they're raping and pillaging still and why they are unemotional and unable to connect. But how do we expect them to be something more when we have given them the permission to do whatever they want, whenever if a man cheats, a woman just stays with him, whatever that is. And this is just an overview. Know that I am not being specific. The overview of society is that women are raised one way. Even still, we're supposed to be a more evolved society, but we're not. Women are still raised that if you have sex outside of marriage, if you do all the things, then you're a whore and you're not worthy of anything. And men are raised to have as many conquests as they possibly can, not be emotional. So if we don't start healing both men and women, we will continue this cycle. The reason we still have sex trafficking and all of that, this has been going on before time. I'm watching Game of Thrones, and this is nothing new. The society is
Yeah.
same way. We just look better. We're not running around with, knives in our hands, killing people with swords, but we're doing the same behavior because we have never taught how to love oneself. We spend most of our life in education and we don't learn anything, math or arithmetic, but we don't learn how to love ourselves. We don't learn how to honor ourselves. We don't learn how to have emotions. We don't learn anything that is a necessity for good relationships. So part of the work that I'm doing is about this. There was a time I was doing a speech in Tracy, California, and the DA there just changed my life. She, had been dealing. Tracy, California is kind of the hub of human trafficking. And she was saying, if we don't start healing as a society, we just keep the same cycle. If we don't start healing the people that buy children, then we don't start having a world where people don't buy children, right? So after that speech, this is where my life changed. Is I realized I had a psychic after that, and she goes, and she's the one that said, the more vulnerable you are, the more undeniable you become. And you have to be vulnerable. Now, at that point, this was a couple years ago, she was like, I was like, you're full of shit. I've got a one-woman show. I am so vulnerable. I tell everybody everything, blah, 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 blah. I don't have anything to hide. In about a year, and I didn't talk to her again. I refused. I was like, you're full of shit. I don't believe a word you say, blah, 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 blah. So a couple years after that reading, I was standing, looking in my mirror, doing my mirror exercise. And I just start sobbing. I go, I am an open book, but I am not vulnerable. And the minute I realized that vulnerability was missing my life, I added some new stuff to my show after a bad breakup. After somebody doing something really shitty to me, I added a new section to my show, and that changed my life forever. And that new section was this vulnerable self that I had been denying. And without that vulnerability, I cannot be loved, and I cannot have loved, and I couldn't receive love or even really give love. And that changed my trajectory forever. And so the woman I am today is this softer, more beautiful, more grounded, more vulnerable, more loving human, because I don't have to be in control. I don't have to rule with an iron fist. I can be soft and beautiful. And what us independent women miss is that we feel like we have to be bitches in order to be successful. Well, no, that doesn't work. Our vulnerability is what honors, what makes men shift, what makes the world shift, what makes life shift. Our feelings is what transforms the world. And so that is where I'm at. And that change in my life made me realize that we have all of these victims of sexual assault. 1 in 4 women, they say 1 in 16 men. I believe it's more like 1 in 8, maybe more than that. And all of us are dealing with sexual trauma. And remember, if it's 1 in 4, that really means it's probably 1 in 2 or every other person you meet. So we are living in a society of sexual dysfunction. So of course people are buying children and thinking pedophilia is a born state of mind. But what happens is people get assaulted at a young age and don't get their healing until they're in their 30s, 40s, maybe their 20s if they're lucky. And so I'm trying to find a way with a group of people that have all been through some kind of violence in their life, some kind of assault, whether it was living in foster care or going through child sexual trauma, whatever that is. And the group of us are trying to create a program where we can start healing people at a younger age so that we don't have to, like, I had to spend a lifetime trying to find healing with all of this sexual dysfunction, with all of this emotional dysfunction, because I was broken, because I was assaulted at such a young age. 17 years old, being gang raped was my very first sexual experience. And that was a violent assault against me. And so everything after that, I didn't get my healing until I was in my 30s. So everything after that was traumatic. So if we can start healing, baby, we put all this energy into saving the future victims, but we put no energy in healing the future perpetrators and also healing the babies that have been assaulted. Whether you're 5 or 17, you're still a child. Whether you're 30 and get assaulted, that assault changes the core of your body. So if we can start healing at a younger age, we can start healing sexuality in a global way, because right now, there's not a lot of people that are sexually functional in a highly beautiful way, because we don't even talk about sex in life ever. Growing up, did anybody talk about sex? We've got all of these young adults that are sexually free, but remember, they can't even look up off of their cell phones to actually connect to a human being. So sticking their dick in a hole, they don't care. It doesn't matter what that hole is. So I can do it to a guy or do it to a woman or do it to this. Yeah, it's much more sexually free, but are you actually connecting? And look, I am not putting judgment on anybody that does anything. That is not my job. My job is not to judge you. Your job is to see yourself and what you're really doing. And I realized that I wasn't really connecting with humans. And every college that I went to that I spoke with, these girls were not connecting with men. They were sucking dick, but they weren't even getting pleasured. These men were even though they were getting pleasured and getting off, they weren't connecting. In sex, whether it's I just want to fuck the fuck out of somebody, or if it's I want to have the most intimate, loving moment, it's still a connection. What we're missing in society is not just being able to connect with other human beings, whether it's a friend or a lover or a boyfriend or a husband or whatever, but we don't even connect with ourselves. When's the last time you looked in your own eyes and said, I freaking love you and you deserve awesomeness? That's what my mirror exercise is. I do it every day, or whenever I'm feeling poopy, I'll look in the mirror and have a conversation with myself. Because when I converse with you, I look in your eyes and you and I connect. But if you can just fuck without looking in somebody's eyes, then you're missing something. And I am trying with all of my heart because I still have sexual trauma. I still get triggered sexually, and I've been through a lot of work, but I want to find a way, if I possibly can, with this group of 12, to find a way to heal us sexually, because you can have all the movements, the hashtag me too's, the hashtags, it's enough. But if we don't change the core of sexuality, that cycle never ends. And that's what my hope is to change the core of sexuality so that we can embrace it in a way that is awesome and beautiful. I wish I knew sex was so awesome at a young age, because I wouldn't have put myself through so much trauma. I would have enjoyed it more. I would have given it to less and respected who I was. And look, I love sex. I do. And for the first time in my life over these last decades, I'm able to say I love it. But before, it was just an action. It was an act I did because that's what you were supposed to do. And I didn't enjoy one bit of it. I maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't feel a lot of that because I was in repression, but I'm praying for a healing around sexuality so that we don't have to continue this cycle of violence. I said to him about my rapist, I was like, oh man, that's what they felt they were supposed to do. And I feel sorry for them because that's what they felt they were supposed to do. And that's what you do to women. And that cycle of violence sexually is what they think is right and what we want. But we're not teaching anything better. And if we don't have an educational shift around sex, around the way we see ourselves, the way we love ourselves, we will never change this world we live in. And that's my biggest dream, is to find a way to find not just sexual healing, sexual healing, song, not just sexual healing, but spiritual, emotional,
Yes.
loving healing, right? I'm sorry, I'm on a tangent, but
No, I love it. I was like losing my own voice there for a minute there. I was just like, there's never a tangent on the show, never a tangent. It's your passion is so alive for this topic. And again, I'm just watching you and like, yes, bring it, do it. I'm curious, and this is not that one is easier than the other, but we do put so much effort, the world puts so much effort into healing victims, which is absolutely needed. But I love what you said about healing the perpetrator, because I think a lot of times in our society, we're like, fuck that person. I just did a video about this the other day. It's like, I hate that person. They suck, but they were raised that way. And that's not condoning it by any means. But how do we stop the cycle if we're not healing the people that are continuing the cycle, not just the victims? So I'm curious if you or your team has come up with even an inkling of a solution of like, how do we tackle these people that maybe aren't coming out of the woodwork to us to be healed? They're not showing up for therapy. They're just out there doing this thing, thinking it's right. How do we even begin healing the perpetrators?
I believe we have to start at a younger age. You know, we don't talk about sex. We don't talk about anything. We don't even talk about right or wrong, right? We just fall into it. And most people and most men right now and young women are learning sex through pornography, which is a very degrading, and I have nothing against pornography. know that. The truth is that there isn't anything that is erotic in a way that helps a young man who hasn't learned about sex learn about it. So if you the first thing you see is sex is this rape scene on porn, then of course you're going to think that's what women
Or
want.
Game of Thrones.
Okay,
You're like, oh, it was so cool.
that's
Yeah.
it's well, every woman just wants to be raped and pillaged. The town wants to be pillaged. But the truth is that what we're not doing is starting at a young enough age. Now, remember, the average perpetrator has been perpetrated against, right?
Mm.
So if that's all you know, that's all you know, right? And there's a small percentage of psychopaths, sociopaths that are literally they're irreversible because that is the way they've come into the world. But it's a very small percentage of perpetrators. So what my team and I are trying to create is a program that starts at a younger age, like right outside of kindergarten, because some people, a lot of the people I know have been molested at 5, 4, 3. So they're there, but they have nobody helping them understand that this is wrong. And if you hear some random adult talk about if somebody says something to you or does something to you, it's wrong, it's really hard for you to hear that as a child. So we're trying to create a program that is much like Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Remember that program?
Yes.
But a program similar to that, but with mentorship at a younger age. So first junior high person can mentor somebody below them in grade school, right? But they also have been through trauma, right? So they've been through sexual trauma. So building a program where we're teaching others to heal others, right? So it's not just us, this group of 12 going in and saving the world. What we're trying to create is a healthier world and society around how we raise up people so that we're not having to worry about victims in the future because we're healing the future, the already victims, and we're healing the future perpetrators. See, the future perpetrators were victims. So if we heal these victims at a younger age and they don't have to wait till 30 and have all these years of self-destruction from 5 to 30 where it's all dysfunctional inside, imagine what we're able to do. If at 5 years old, like what I said to a friend of mine, he was molested at 6 to 13. And I said, what would have changed your life had somebody spoken to you when you were 6? And that's the program we're trying to create. How would your life be different? Right? How would your life be different if you had a young man, even at your age, come and talk to you at 6, who's like, I was molested too, and this is what happened to me, and let me help you through this so that you don't have to go through the same journey I did. Right? If you have a young woman like me who's been, raped, talking to a young girl at that age on a one-on-one way instead of in this group where you're already shamed and embarrassed, you're in a group of all your classmates and you don't know who else, if anybody's been through what you've been through, and then it's all you know. How are you going to feel comfortable enough to speak your truth at 5, 6, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, right? You gotta be in a safe place. Anybody that has been through anybody that has been through any kind of sexual trauma, molestation, rape, any of that, even a decent exposure from some dude showing you their diddle in the middle of a playground when you're 10, that is traumatic. And because we don't have a counterpart of talking about what is good around sex, and we never talk about that, you don't even know what's right or wrong. So if what we're trying to create is some program that can go nationally into every educational program and teach on a different way, but also give young kids an opportunity to speak their truth at a younger age where they don't have to go up and talk to their teacher and expose themselves. That's a scary thing, but being able to talk to somebody who gets it, who's already been through it, who's your age when it happened, who can help you through it. Look, it's a pilot program. I don't know what it's going to look like. It is the beginning of thoughts that have been in my mind for the last 8 years of my life. How do we change this sooner, better, in a way that people don't have to live through what I had to go through to get my healing, right? I don't want this 5-year-old to have to wait till they're 40 to finally get healing. Imagine what little kings and queens we get to create if we are healing at an earlier age, what little superheroes, what they'll be possible of doing because they don't hate themselves their whole life. Most of us who've been through sexual trauma hate ourselves for so long. It takes a journey to get to a place where we don't hate ourselves anymore. And imagine being able to love yourself younger. Love yourself, even when your dad has done something bad to you that you know is bad, but you don't know because he tells you if you tell anybody, he'll kill them, right? If you don't know that you have protection and you have somebody there for you that gets it, then you never know you can even be on the other side of it. So that is the goal. That is the dream. That is the hope. Because I don't want anybody to have to go through what I have gone through, what the people that I love have gone through with their own trauma and their own inability to heal. I don't want people to have to be ashamed of themselves because it's not, I'm watching Game of Thrones and these young women were forced to marry. My grandmother had my dad at 14 to a 30-year-old man, and her life was hard, and she was a hard woman. And she died at 93 because she was mad at the world because she didn't have a choice. And that was just, she's 93. That's not even that long ago. We're still selling ourselves into relationships that we don't even want to be in because we feel like we have to be loved. And this is the only way we be loved if we give our entire selves away. So I guess, I don't mean to get so emotional, but I guess I'm just hoping that we can make somebody else's journey easier. Because I don't, even though I love the life that I've lived and I'm grateful for everything that I've gone through, I don't want anybody to have to go through as much pain as I have had to go through.
Oh, I wish I could give you a hug right now. I'm like, damn this COVID shit. You are an angel. I'm sitting here feeling like she's an angel. She's an angel spirit. The angels come in human form to take on the most drastic trauma because they know that they can handle it as a soul, as a human. They're strong enough. And I'm watching you and I'm like, she needs wings. She has wings. Your wings are open and you are creating this beautiful, beautiful thing. I mean,
wait, I just realized I forgot to plug my computer in. So you talk and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Bye, you guys.
It's like, but I mean, I'm talking to the empty chair, but this is acting right now. It's not. I know you can hear me though, but you are an angel spirit. I mean, just the fact that you brought this beautiful story into the world. It started off with your own trauma. It turned into a one-woman show, and now it's expanding into this world-changing group and project that is so incredibly inspiring. I mean, you are so right. We need this in early education. So many people are taught the wrong way, from parents who were taught the wrong way, from grandparents who were taught the wrong way. And it is so necessary. Like, I can completely relate to you that most of us have healed at such a later age, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I'm listening to you talk, and it's like, oh my God, I get so angry that, like, these things that I've gone through, and like, God, why did it take me so long? Why am I like 40? Why did it take me this many decades to heal and to be able to turn my life around? How much did I miss because of all of this shit? How much was I not shining? How much was I ashamed? And that's unfortunately, especially for women, but for men too, that is the world that we are brought into. Is we are brought into being shamed immediately. Literally immediately. We're born, we're shamed, whether by parents or society. And it's just, you are such an angel for bringing this forward and for using your own life experience to help people, to help children. It is just, there's no doubt in my mind that this is going to expand beyond belief. I mean, your mother saw it when you were younger. She saw that light, that spirit, that power, and it's only going to expand from here. I'm just.
Well, it's interesting because,
so powerful.
For so long I had been really woman-centered because, I was a woman who'd been raped. And then I realized that if we don't heal both of us, like women, we're on the path, we're in the organizations, we're doing all this work and but we're not healing both sides. And we
Yeah.
cannot have a world without men, and we cannot have a world with just women. It will not work, because we cannot procreate and continue on the world. So I stopped. I actually got a male partner for this, because I was like, I want to find a way for men and women to come together and find a collective change in this,
Mm,
right? Because without that, like, part of the program too is like, we've got all these race issues and all this and all that. It's like, when did we become, I mean, I guess we always have been, but why are we still worried about stuff that doesn't matter?
yeah.
And so part of this is not just people who love themselves don't rape people, right?
Hmm.
People who love themselves don't beat up people. People who love themselves don't hate Black people. People who love themselves do not have hate in them, right? Hate comes from
Yes.
a lack of self-awareness and a lack of self-ownership. So what we're trying to teach in this program is, if you love yourself, you don't have to be in pain, right? And so
Hmm.
that's the ultimate goal, is self-love. Because like any good relationship, if you don't love yourself, you're never going to find somebody that really loves you, because you're going to just keep collecting people that don't see you for who you are, because you don't see you for who you are. So part of this program is like taking full ownership of your life. So this is what happened to you when you were 5 years old. Your father did this to you, and you have now become a victim of molestation. And now, how do you own that without hating yourself and without hating the person that did that to you, and find healing, right? So I guess, somebody asked me, how do you forgive the men that did this to you? And I said, well, because I feel sorry for them, that that's what they believed they needed to do because of their own trauma. So if we begin to start healing people younger, imagine how little need we're going to need a victim's advocate in the future,
Oh,
right? How little we're going to need. Instead, we put all these funds and all these resources into these babies. And I call them babies because we're babies until we're what, 30, really? You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah.
In America, we're really raised poorly in the way that we're like, we're just babies for a long time. But imagine, and this is what my dream is, imagine a world where people love themselves. Oh, can you imagine?
I honestly, I think
I
that's why many of us light beings came to this planet.
know.
But like, hey, this human experience is sucking right now. We did
It,
not come here. We did not come here to evolve through trauma. The trauma needs to end. I really do feel, as I see you and everyone else working on this, like we all came here in some way to teach self-love, because that's the answer to everything. Oh,
it,
your audio went out. There you go. Now I got you back.
it is everything. And I gotta tell you, it took me way too long to love myself,
Yeah.
way too long. And if
Oh,
help even a quarter of the people not have to go through what we've gone through, oh Lord, how amazing would this world be? And that's why, my company is called Embrace Your Cape Enterprises Inc. It's because, that cape is everything, because it has all of you rolled up into one, right? So when it's rolled up, it's tight. It's like a piece of baggage on the back of your neck, where you're just like carrying it everywhere you go. And as it unfurls with each ownership of who you are and what you are, as it starts to flow behind you, you can soar. But as long as it's tight up with all your shit in it, it's just stinky, right? It just stinks a little bit,
stinky.
right? It stinks, a swirl of nothingness, a fabric that's been fermenting in a pile of poo for too long. I get, I know poo is a big thing in me, because I'm like, we have all this shit in our life. I'm just like, flush it down the toilet.
Oh, yeah. I sorry to talk about poo, but I actually want to do a whole episode on spiritual shitting, because like when you actually heal and those days where you're like, oh, I had an epiphany, then immediately like I have to poop.
I know.
It's actually a thing.
Where do you put all that yucky stuff that you just released?
Exactly. You flush it down the toilet.
Don't,
Oh
don't
my gosh.
sneak up your life. Don't let the shit sneak up your life. Flush that shit down the toilet. Period.
Yes.
Right. So letting that cape unfurl and fly is fully taking ownership of who you are. And that is, I believe, the gift that I was given on this earth, is to help people see who they are and love every bit of it. And I will be on that battlefield until, my last
Yes.
breath, till my last breath, you
Mm.
know, that's it. That's my purpose. And honored to be able to do my show and to reach audiences all over the world. I am so grateful for the gift that was given to me from the divine because, again, it was gifted to me in a dream and I accepted it. So,
I am incredibly, I know we're out of time, and I am incredibly grateful that you honored us with your presence on my show today. I was saying that earlier. I just feel like I'm going to be able to say, yeah, I kind of knew her back then, and then in the in between, and then before she became this like world renowned activist. I mean, you already are, but I just see your life blowing up and expanding even more in such a great way. And I'm so honored that you took the time to be here, to talk to me, to talk to the folks that are watching Tea and Magic. If you have, I like to end this every show. If you have, do you have one last bit of advice that you could give anyone watching? What's like your life motto? You could say one thing to close. It's like, this is what I really want you to remember, everyone.
what I really want everyone to remember, I want to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to have this beautiful conversation with this beautiful woman and this beautiful witchy witch with nothing but her heart. Um,
Thank you.
and it's the thing I live by. Own your story, own your life. Embrace your cape with all your might because you are it. You are it. You are here for a reason, and it is a powerful reason. There's not one person on this earth who was put on this earth to not be powerful. And you are powerful, but the power comes in your vulnerability, your ability to honor and own your story, every bit of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful. And when you do that, that is when you become an undeniable human, where people are drawn to you. You probably already feel it because we're born with it. And we spend our whole life trying to get back to what we're born with. And if you can honor that now, and be everything that you were meant to be. And it may not be pretty. Like I said, I ain't perfect. I am perfectly imperfect. Be okay with being perfectly imperfect and be okay with whatever that cape says on it, right? It could say, ooh, that one time you were this, that one time you were that, but it's every part of you. And I got to tell you, the day I owned my cape, owned my story, owned who I am, has given me the freedom to be everything. And that is the gift that I would love to give to you. And I don't know if that resonates with you, and I hope that it does. But remember, your story, every bit of it is important, and people need to hear it. You need to own it. And this is your time. Right now is our divine time to be brilliant. So I leave you with that.
Mm. Well, I will say that that resonated with me. The being vulnerable, as strong women, that's something we're always working on. So I felt like you were giving me the message that I needed to hear in my life right in this moment. And I hope that everyone else felt the same. You guys, I'm going to post your links all over the social media. If you're watching this on Facebook, if you're watching this on YouTube later, you can definitely find all of this information out. Please leave your comments either on Facebook or on YouTube. Would love to know. And if you're watching this later, definitely leave your comments because we'll get back to them and we'll make sure we answer any questions. But I just wanted to thank you again so much for honoring us on the show. I appreciate having you. It's been such a beautiful experience, and I'm just enlightened, and I feel like, okay, now I'm ready to take on the world. After this conversation, I'm ready. And if you guys are watching this, we do this every single Friday at the Magic Grove on our Facebook Live. Magic Grove is the group name, and you can find it on my YouTube channel, Kristen Netopak. I will see you guys next week for another magical